أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This week, for the thought of the week, we want to reflect on a saying from the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him and his family. And in the tradition, the Prophet speaks in terms of what he fears for his ummah, for his community. There are many traditions in the same wording of things that the Prophet fears. And obviously when we read any of these traditions, we need to be very aware and acute of the circumstance and the situations that we ourselves are in, and reflect on the words and think about our own personal situation and predicament that we find within the Muslim community today or at any time. And in this tradition, the Prophet guides us to three things that he worries about. Three fears he has for this ummah, this community, which is the best of communities, the forgiven community, the one whom the Quran calls the best of nations. With all of those accolades that we have, the Prophet still fears for us and the community on a whole. And in this tradition, the Prophet says the following of what he fears for the nation of Muslims. Indeed, I fear three things from my community: obeying their greed, following their desires, and an astray leader. In this tradition, the Prophet fears three specific things for us, the believers. One is obeying our greed, because we know that when we obey our greed, when we are tempted and allured by this power of greed, this really has the potential to make us do the worst of sins. Theft becomes common when we have greed, when we obey that greed. Killing can become common when we want to satiate and appease that greed that we have within our lives and we can't get what we want through legitimate means. Lying, so many other sins and evil actions can all come forth when we obey our greed and when we let the passions and desires get to us. And so the second level, the Prophet says, after obeying the greed, he fears his followers following and obeying their lower desires to be the second thing of a fear that the Prophet has for us. Now, following the desires can take place in many different ways and forms. It could be following our sexual desires. It could be following the desire and passion to be a leader. People who are megalomaniacs, who thrive on being the authority, the power in a family, in a community, in a society, that they always want to be elected to president, to this power, to that position, to always be in charge. You know, there are many people like that in the Muslim world today. Heads of state are like that. Heads of families are like that. Heads of non-profit religious organizations are like this. They have to be in charge. The Prophet fears obedience of people's passions and desires. This can be detrimental for the believer. And last but not least, the Prophet fears a leader who has gone astray. And that could be either a political leader or it could be a religious leader. Nobody is immune from corruption. We see this in the world today around us. People of every religion, even if they are men of the cloth, if they are clergy, there are many who are evil, many who are using and manipulating the religion for their own benefit. People who are manipulating people under their control to suit their personal whims and desires. People who would easily siphon off the bank balance of their religious institution to gamble it away to casino. People who would follow the people who would become astray on the political scene and corrupt and bring corruption in their society. And maybe that's why we have the beautiful tradition from the Prophet where he warns us and he tells us that if two groups of his community are on the right path, humanity will be okay. But if two groups have diverted from the path, that they can divert all of humanity. The Prophet says that these are the ulama and the umara, the leaders, the religious leaders, the scholars, and the political leaders and shakers of a society. If these two groups are corrupt, they can corrupt everybody. But if they're straight and they're on the right path and they're working truly for the sake of God, for the betterment of society, then they can bring about a revolution in the thought pattern of the people to make everybody on the straight path. And so as we continue on in these thoughts of the week, let us ensure that we remove these evils from our lives if we have them within ourselves. Greed, let us try to remove this greed and avarice from our lives. Let us try to shun our passions and desires, control our passions, ensure that they are within the right means of Islam, and keep away from us becoming corrupt leaders, that we don't have that tribulation put upon us, that we become a leader who is then corrupt and corrupting society. Let us ask God for all of these and many more benefits, that we can be protected in our religion and as followers of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. May God's peace and blessings be upon all of them. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.